a brewing industry and as a craft beer scene kind of keep moving with the consumer. And if the consumer changes habits and they're looking for like seltzers here, but like don't make it like your thing, but like, you know, they're looking for barrel-aged stouts here, like you've got to figure out if you're attaching to the guy that loves the barrel-aged stouts or if you're kind of following the trends. We're just trying to like be there for everyone, like, and that's like the biggest thing. Like, I would never stop making barrel-aged stouts just because the market shrank.
Yeah.
Like, I would try to find the people that like them and like, you know, get them there. So you choose what bars you go to based on their tap lists and the experience that you have on them. Like, it's the same thing that you associate with brands. Like, at the end of the day, like, you're going to pick a brand that fits what you like, just like you're going to pick a bar or like a restaurant, like. And some people are vegan, and some people are gonna like meat, and like you got to figure it all out. So that's what we do. So now we're getting deep.
Welcome back to the Brew That Podcast. I'm your host, Richie Tevlin, joined as always by Evan Blum. And tonight we have on Doug Bellenger from Well Crafted.
Hey guys, thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Good to have you.
Yeah, so we were just talking about, you know, like how this is going to work. But if you could just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about Well Crafted, and get into, you know, how I guess you came.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
So Well Crafted started a while back. So my neighbor and I brewed together for like 13 years. And we brought on some of our other buddies because we were making bigger and bigger batches, and then we didn't have enough people to drink it. So all of us, you know, got excited about the beers we were making. My neighbor ended up going to school for brewing. He apprenticed at Barren Hill, which used to be the old General Lafayette. When Barren Hill closed, we had an opportunity to kind of go in and take over the equipment. Because he was like one of the few people that could operate this, you know, antique amazing equipment from the General Lafayette.
Yeah.
That location didn't work out. Like, still would love to have brewed there because it's such a cool place. But we brought it all up to Lansdale, and we started 6 years ago in the basement of Lansdale. My favorite thing in the world is being in a basement.
So I read on your website you guys all went to college together?
We did. We went to RIT. So we're packaging engineers by trade, which
all
makes
of you
us
guys are packaging engineers?
We have 5 families, and we have one family that came on later in time.
Yeah.
The first 4 are all tied to package engineer, and the
Wow.
fifth one's tied to beer. So,
nice.
But yeah, you guys know what package engineering is?
I'm assuming
Not enough.
No,
building boxes or something.
It's hilarious when you ask that. Yeah, it's bit like it ranges from boxes. I was talking to him about supply chain, so I used to work in like shipping drugs, like syringes, like glass bottles. My wife used to make the labels for Yuengling, and like, you know, got to fly on the jet and stuff. So like it's just everything you touch has a package. And then when you get into beer, like that's like one of the most important parts, because you can make an amazing beer, but then put it out in the field and then it's completely ruined by a bad seal, which you can't always control. But like packaging becomes kind of the key to that. So.
Yeah, the value add of like going through the steps of grain to glass,
right?
And like the value add of keeping clean beer in package is like the most valuable thing you can do as a brewery, like especially as you're a growing brewery.
Yeah, and then when you look at supply chain side, keeping it cold is like instrumental, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we have beers that will do well when they're not in cold, like our Wolf Pajamas, you know, like it's an Imperial Stout, and our Blonde Americano does pretty well not in the cold, but like when you get to an IPA, like that package can't, you know, hold everything together the way it's supposed to be unless it's pasteurized, right? And even then it's got a short shelf life, but
I've never even really thought about this, but like, so we're talking about like reefer trailers. Do you ship like almost all your product up through reefers to keep them cold? Or?
No. Beer is not as sensitive as like a pharmaceutical product.
Okay,
so like, yeah, we keep it cold as long as we possibly can, and then, you know, it gets delivered to us, to our distributors. Our distributors keep it in these crazy cold storage areas as well, and then they might have cold or take it as well. But then.
Gotcha.
Then it gets to the shelf, and, you know, some stores are warm, some stores are cold, some stores have it in the fridge. So we go in and try to fight for fridge space anywhere we can, but you can't always win that game in some of these places. So then you just hope that they sell it fast enough. So, but yeah, that's all packaging. So So yeah,
What
and
brought you from packaging to then like, okay, now it's time to like let's do brewing?
we all had different journeys on that land. So my neighbor, we just had a passion for brewing. Like we were.
It was just you two that started brewing first.
When we were right next door to each other, so like it was just convenient. But like we
Yeah.
were making stuff like black IPAs, like Wookie Jack was one of our beers, and we wanted to like.
So you
make
guys
something like that.
all went to RIT, and then you guys all moved here together as friends. Was that are you guys a cult?
No, it was
how did
all
this
all
work?
just like so
were
many
you guys
people
friends
from
in high school, or just it randomly?
No, random.
Okay.
So many people, came from Rochester down to Philly because Philly's pharma scene.
Yeah.
That like it ended up becoming just a natural home
Okay.
base for everybody. So
Cool.
And then my neighbor
Lansdale,
lived
yes,
out
yeah.
like in Lancaster, and then our house came available. And we're like, yo, you should move here, and like, because everybody knew each other.
Yeah.
Like the beer community, it's very tight knit. So.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, we all relocated to here. So.
Okay, I'm sorry to break you on your tangent, but you guys start brewing together just
Yep.
in your garage.
We brewed in our garage, so then we brought some of those beers to the world. So when we opened Lansdale, which is our first location, we were in a basement. We had to figure out how to operate a brewery in a basement. We have an elevator that we have to bring grain in and kegs out of. We had to figure out how to get food in the basement. Like, we put a big stage in the basement, which is a lot of our news story is kind of what we're doing with music. But eventually we got to the point where it was maxed out. Like, so pre-COVID, we were, bringing canning lines. We were bringing people in to can for us. We had to buy a canning line that would fit in an elevator.
Yeah.
So we actually took over a second location in 2 years ago in Ambler. So now,
Was that already built out, or you guys built that out?
yeah, that was built out. So we acquired the assets from Ambler Beer Company.
Okay.
Also, kind of one of those stories where like we had a really close relationship with them because they also worked in pharma with us, and like we talked a lot, and they utilized some of the same people that we used for architecture and equipment, and so. We ended up kind of having a really awesome like home to go to there, and just really worked on building that out and gaining efficiencies there. So you can't really pull an 18-wheeler up to a basement and load out of an elevator. So like now we can work with distributors. We can go beyond what we were doing before in much bigger batches.
And what's the split like? You guys are basically brewing the same amount in both locations? Is one location the wholesale location?
We brew both locations brew some for wholesale.
Okay.
But we do like lagers and pilsners in Lansdale because
Okay.
like the tanks get used differently there.
Yeah.
We brew sours in Lansdale too, but we brew like our bigger beers, like our IPAs. We brew Blonde Americano. We now are brewing Wolf Pajamas over in Ambler. So Ambler probably brews 2 to 3 times as much as Lansdale does, but that's just because we're able to turn the tanks a lot faster over there. So
Cool.
it's more convenient, and we have much more cold storage space as we talked about earlier. Over
Yeah.
there. So, but yeah, so that's where we are in our journey now. We're kind of extending, the use of the actual world that we have available to us from a brewing standpoint, and starting to make some more cool beers. So
Nice. That's fun that a lot of breweries don't talk about like, how many tanks you have, and like you're thinking about like, how to balance out your beers volume wise.
it's every system can do things a specific way. Like when we make our kettle sours, like our Lansdale system is great at it. Like we love making kettle sours there. Ambler, we put in a reverse osmosis system, so we have like a very like sophisticated water system. So when we make IPAs, we can make sure we get consistency in the water supply. We make our cream ale there, our Tiger Tail, which so like it's one of my favorite beers. Have you had it with ginger lime?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's we have it on tap at the
Cream
tap room.
ale with ginger lime.
It's awesome. Yes.
What is that, like a mule kind of?
It's almost like that, yeah. So
cool.
the cream ale has a lot of opportunity for different tastes, just like a Kolsch, like getting a ruby red Kolsch from my hometown Genesee. Like you can build upon some of these like lower ABV beers in a different way than people used to. So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're all over the place, but like you were talking about like the base. So you guys have this Goza series.
Yep.
And you have the Americano series. Is that like you guys just found like the perfect base and then figured out different ways to play around with it?
So the Goza is very similar to that. So we make a naked Goza, we make a key lime Goza, we make a cranberry orange Goza, and I think we've done 1 or 2 other ones. So yeah, how we make that style is a similar base. We also do a Flamingo Bonito series. So it's a Bonito series, but like we do a mango peach Bonito, and we do, Flamingo's a raspberry Bonito, and we've done a mixed berry Bonito. So like those, like some of them just lead themselves to styles where we can, test different like fruit combinations, right?
Yeah, you have it with one fruit, and you're like, this tastes good, but like it's reminding me of this.
Exactly. So, and Blonde Americano is actually very interesting because like that was a style, like there are coffee stouts out there, but Blonde is a little bit different. It's got
I like blonde
really good
coffee
cream.
stouts more than I like coffee stouts.
Yeah.
I think the blonde is it's a little bit lighter and it's a little bit more smooth and digestible.
And you had it on Nitro earlier,
I
you
had
said?
it Nitro today
Yeah,
at 19th Street Cafe or Taproom on 19th Street, and it was perfect. I mean, it was like, this is perfectly smooth, and on Nitro, it was like...
Blonde is meant to be. It's,
Yeah.
it's a great Nitro beer. So, but we actually have a couple different in those series, too. So we have an Irish potato. We have a mocha. We have a new one coming out, which is going to be a s'mores one. So it's like a toasted marshmallow
Nice.
like taste to it. So yeah, that's a fun beer. And then we have a pumpkin spice Americano. So like we just got out of pumpkin season. That's always like the hardest thing. You're like trying to time these things.
I wish pumpkin spice was called something else because you can only drink it in the fall. But I feel like it tastes so good. It's like, why can I only have a pumpkin spice latte in the fall? Like,
Well,
I
we
want that all the
used to
time.
have a gingerbread Americano, and like it was the same thing.
Yeah.
Like it's got like 3 to 4 weeks to live, and then it's not there. So which is why we were doing s'mores this year, because I was like, we need to.
That can go all.
We don't want to
winter.
tie ourselves too deeply to these like seasonal beers, because like Irish potato, like we have to get that out in February to make sure that it's done and off tap by St.
Yeah.
Patrick's Day, and then we got to make sure that we don't overmake it because it's not as easy to sell afterwards.
Yeah, I think McGillen sells like something crazy, like $2 pitchers of green Miller Lite on like the day after St. Patrick's Day.
Yep.
It's like, what if you're stuck with these beers after the holiday's over? It's like,
Yeah,
all
the
right.
seasonality of them is very difficult, which is why the Goza series is a little easier to manage. But there's also the pull when you get to that seasonality. Like people get excited for pumpkin beers, and and you just gotta go with it. So
Yeah.
Fest beer is my favorite. Like when that comes out, that I could drink that all year long. But obviously we condense that as well, and then we try to play in the lager space afterwards. So, but
How long did it take you to like hone in on timings on? We gotta brew these at this point. Now we want to have them for a certain month.
So when we were self-distributed, it was like the timing was like very variable. We knew how to make it like, if we had to make another batch and we knew we had this much left and we had 2 weeks left, it was really easy. But like now that we're distributed, we need to make sure we get into all the rest of the world. So like if everybody's starting to put pumpkin beers out, have the schedule ready to go in July, we can't miss that. And like it's back to like it's got to hit the distributor in July to hit the store in August, and then you don't want to ship it again, anytime after like, September 15th.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to end up having more in the system than you need. So, and like this year was even crazier. Like if you went into beer stores, they were still like putting pumpkin on discounts like in September from last year. Like it was just like there was discounts all year long on pumpkin beers because like a couple of years ago everybody bought them, and then it kind of slowed down. We're lucky with the Americano because it's like a totally different pumpkin beer. It's not like in your face. It's not super high ABV, and it fits all kinds of different demographics. Like
it's also a little bit different. Like we had what's his name on, Matt, and he was talking about Dogfish Heads. Their pumpkin beer is a brown ale.
Yep.
Like this is a little bit different than just like your typical pumpkin beer.
Yeah, and that's like it helps because then it gets a little bit like more street cred after the fact that people will buy it and drink it for another month, like you were saying. So
also, I think something like this, like not that you want your beer selling the year afterwards, but like something like this could very easily age well into the next year. I feel like a pumpkin
does pretty
spice
good.
beer stout like ages really well. And
yeah,
After year.
I've heard from other breweries, like friends of ours, that they actually take the pumpkin beers and then they use them in the kitchen to like start to make food with them afterwards. And I was like, that's a good idea too, because the fall soups can go for a long time, even if the pumpkin goes out. So
yeah.
But then when it comes to like IPAs and like seasonal stuff like that, that's like a different world. So Grit and Juice for us is it's an orange mandarin hazy IPA. Absolutely delicious, but like that's obviously a fall seasonal beer, so It's a juicy beer. How it's named. Hopmonger, we actually have a lot of fun with now. So we have a variety pack. I don't know if you guys have run into it, but we have these 12-ounce variety packs. So we have a not an IPA pack, and then we have a Monger variety pack. But like we cut a window out so we can change the beer out seasonally still without having to pay for a ton of extra packaging. And like right now we have Citramonger, and it's been amazing. And now like we've got all of these different hop variables that we can put into it. But
Oh, so it just says the Monger pack, and then you change the
We
packaging,
changed-
but the label changes kind of because you can see through it.
exactly. Yeah, so we did a nectar on
Packaging
one.
engineers,
This
you
is
changed
we're
the
at work.
game.
So like for our not an IPA pack, we have a Kolsch, a cream ale, and a Pilsner all year long. But then we substitute in a wit, or we substitute in a lager, or we'll substitute something into the springtime. So like, it gives us the ability to like still be a small craft brewery without having to worry about how we're handling the supply chain. Because like you can't put out that many beers anymore. I can't put out 17 different beers and have a Pilsner and a lager and a Kolsch and a wit and like a cream ale. Like it just, the store shelves can't handle it. There's already too much out there.
Yep.
And people drink different. Like we were just talking about earlier. It's like they have session drinking, and then there's like going out and having a nice night drinking, and then there's like party drinking, and
And
like
it's something I wanted to talk about too, because I mean, first of all, just to have like a variety pack for a brewery your size, it almost feel like it's kind of non-existent. And that's
it's
from
an
my
adventure.
from my perspective, I'm like, I'm picking that out without a doubt. It's funny because your guys were a part of our Can Crusher campaign, but we used the Well Crafted as like the mask, one of your packs.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, we used that, and just because I wanted to get a variety pack of something, and I saw you guys, I'm like, well, I'm gonna do that. Cause
How does that work with you guys doing it? Are you guys picking and sorting it yourself by hand?
So yeah. That's what we have to do. So it's actually like, it's led into a kind of a world that we love, right? So like we make in the Monger variety pack, it's a 5.5% like hazy IPA, and like that's Little Monger. Then it's Double Monger, so it's 8.4%, and then you got regular Monger, our kind of flagship at 7.1, and then the variety. So we brew them all, and then they all go into tanks together. And because we have these two sites, this can happen, like where like now I've got 4 beers over here and 4 beers over here, like, and we've got 19 fermentation tanks, I think. So like they all come together, and then we have to hand pack them. There's no other way to do it. But it's a we line them all up, and we have them all in order, and we got to make sure we get the first one that's changing in the first time, and then we have to make sure they're all like coded so that we know what's going on. But but it was necessary. Like it had to happen. Like we needed to get into a world where we weren't just hanging out in the 16-ounce aisle, and we were hanging out in the 12-ounce aisle. And honestly, like the more I drink the variety pack, the more excited I am about it, because like you start like with a double and then you end with a little, and like it just like it's like 3 to 4 nights worth of drinking, but it's like fun, And when you get into the not an IPA pack, you bring that to a party, you like cover everybody in one shot. 100%. Or if you're like you just like light beers, like you can get 3 to 4 different styles without over investing. So, and they're like 22 to 20, or like I think it's $22 for the not an IPA pack in most places. I don't know what everybody's prices are, and like 25 to 26 for the IPA. So like it's right in line with price points. It's not like the biggest money maker for us, but it's like the one that gets us to feel like we're brewers. Like it allows us to hit styles that we want to hit without feeling like we have to own all the shelf space.
Yeah.
So, which is what means a lot to us, because we are a brewery. Like that's what you want to do.
And where are you selling most? Are you selling those mostly in beer distributors?
Yeah,
shops,
beer distributors. I mean, they're in some grocery, but there's beer distributors like all over the place that have them. So, and then we sell a ton of them out of the tap rooms too. So.
Cool.
But 16, it's kind of amazing because 16s still do really well. Like they didn't cannibalize a 16-ounce can.
I think 16-ounce 4-packs are almost not the way that IPA is synonymous with craft beer.
Right.
But a 16-ounce 4-pack is like kind of like the perfect packaging for craft beer. And granted, like I'm sure your 12-ounce cans are beautiful, but it's like when people think of your brewery, at least because you're a craft brewery, I think they think of your 16-ounce cans.
Just get little midget ones. They're easier. Yeah. They are easier to market. You guys are marketing guys, but like when you get into the little ones, we just shrink them a little bit.
And they're just like kind of same cans and just shrunk down.
Same design. Yep. Yeah. Same design. Yep. Yeah. We didn't really go.
Are they stickers? Or are they shrink wrapped? Or like what are they?
They're all labels.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. We haven't gotten into that can. You know how much you have to buy when you buy like pre-made cans? Like the shrink wrap cans are a big deal. You're going to go through labels, all this stuff. So
you have to have 2 labels then too, right? For the 16-ounce and the 12-ounce?
Yes, we do.
Oh, man.
But it's totally manageable. Like in the end of the world, like it ends up giving you fresh beer more frequently.
Have you ever accidentally put the 12-ounce stickers on the 16-ounce cans?
Dude, if you jinx us. No, we have not done. Well, it's really hard to do that. Like you would have to, because like fortunately our canning line,
so stupid, like,
our canning line, like you can adjust from 12 to 16 and 19.2, so you get that spread.
Do you have 19.2s?
No, not yet.
Okay.
They're like those margins are even different. So
yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of people I don't know. Like 3 to 4 months ago, like everybody was like 92, but like there's a crowded space in the 92.
Chris Kuno basically explained it as like everyone's 19.2 because they're looking at like an individual can of 19.2 makes you a lot more money. But when you do that, it cannibalizes your other stuff because people are buying a 19.2-ounce can as opposed to a 6-pack. So like you made more money per volume, but then you're losing like that top end revenue that you were going to make.
You guys have it. Him on this show was amazing, by the way. Chris, he is awesome.
I mean,
he is absolutely
104
amazing.
Years of knowledge.
Yeah, and he's just the nicest dude in the world. Anytime you talk to him, like he's just, I don't know.
Yeah, he's I'm sorry to all my other guests. He's my favorite guest we've had on. He was the most chill beer guy. He was like a beer guy's beer guy.
And anytime you talk, he's like that all the time. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 19.2s is a different world, and but it's interesting though. Like it's back to consumer behavior, like how it changes. Like if you ever when you start doing tastings, like and you go and stand at a beer distributor, like you would assume that like everybody's the same coming in. So, that everybody was assumed same coming in. But like one group will walk this way, one group will walk that way, and one group will walk that way. So like the guys going for the 19.2s don't stop to look what's in the 12-ounce aisle, and the guys going for the 12-ounce aisle are looking at the 16-ounce aisle. So so you've got to kind of be there where everybody is. So and I mean that's where you kind of move from brewing to like marketing, and like you have to be like, okay, like sometimes you're a brand and sometimes you're make beer. Like and we always talk about it, if we can't crack the marketing's job is to make sure they crack the can open. And if they crack the can open, then the brewery's got to keep the loyalty going for the rest of the time. So,
so I actually did a tasting at Kuna Beverage, and I saw that same thing too. Like people walk in, and it's just like they're ants. Like they know where they're going,
right?
They go directly to there, and I'm sure there's some sort of marketing economics of like you walk into a store, like you want this to be certain places. Like,
oh yeah,
do you think about that in your tap room? Like, do you have merchandise set up like where you turn your head and you're like, I want this?
The tap rooms are a little bit different
because it's more of a bar than it's a retail location.
So we do keep merchandise and takeout close to the door. So like when that was one of the things with COVID that changed for us dramatically in Lansdale.
Yeah.
So in Lansdale we used to have seating upstairs. And then we turned it into a bottle shop because that's all we could do in COVID. So we didn't want people going down in the basement in order to get beer. So when that happened, we stuck with that. And we learned how much better we could do in takeout than we thought we could because it was easy to access on the way out. But like you kind of have to think about all of it as an experience. And like and when you go to like Disney World or any of these places that like knows experience, right? Like it's the same thing. You walk in one door, you get seated, and on your way out, it's like going to a museum. You go to the museum and it's like, oh wait, you just dropped this in this crazy gift shop, and every kid's like, give me something or I will cry the entire way home, and you're like, shit. Like, so like you kind of have to figure out some of that flow, but like when you're in the beer distributor, it's the same thing. Like it's like milk at the front of the store. Like, you go in, get milk and go out. You don't know to go look in the back. But if you're like 12-ounce variety pack sitting up front, you're going to have a better shot of selling it than if they're trying to go back and find the new hazy IPA in the 16-ounce aisle. So we have far from cracked the code. You can go into any one of these stores and who's cracked the code. Like, I mean, LeVante does a fantastic job of it, right? Like, but like that's also why you partner with distributors to help you kind of understand that, because they they have the signage. They can make it for you. Like we can't make signage like easily at scale, like but they can.
And
So
you're with Penn also.
we're with Penn also. Yep,
They
yeah.
have a
Penn and
profession-
Banco. So Banco,
Okay.
Banco north of the Lehigh, and Penn all down in the Philly area. So
Cool.
both are awesome. Love them both.
When did you switch over from self-distro to wholesale? Or
We started the dive into distro August of last year.
Okay.
Well, it started probably in like May of last year, probably. Like the conversation started 4 to 5 months prior.
And
so.
you were like, you guys moved into Ambler, and you're like, all right, now we're producing a lot of volume. Like, let's not drive this all around ourselves. Let's figure this.
If we didn't,
Yeah,
we were just self-distributing. Like we had to drive like 2 to 3 days a week. Plus, we were trying to do sales every single day, and like we had 2 vans at the time, and once or twice a week, one van would go this way and one van would go that way, and the challenge was just like, what if somebody's not there, and also like. We were running into places that wouldn't take our product unless we were distributed, while also running into places that wouldn't take our product if we were distributed, right? Like when we weren't distributed, we didn't have to worry about being in the distributed tap list, but like we were playing for 2 taps, right? When we're distributed, we're part of a family. It's like a little bit different than that, right?
Yeah.
So we made the call because like, we were spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to move stuff around, and like we really wanted to make beer. Like that's what you get into this to do.
Also,
So.
what bars are like, we're dedicating 2 tap lines to self-distro? It's like, if you think that that's the customers coming in like, I don't do distro beer. They do self-distro, I'm buying it because they drive it here themselves.
No, the challenge is always...
Who thinks about that?
They think about the kegs. What happens is like they'll drop off a keg, and then all of a sudden these kegs will be sitting around because the self-distro guys don't get back for months.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're like, hey, you got like 6 kegs over here. Can you come get them? And we were like witness to this. Like both distributors we'd light up, and like the first thing we got was kegs back. So
if there's already issues with self-distro as far as logistics, what customers are going in and be like, I care that these people drive their beer from their brewery?
Oh, there's a lot of people that are like, they just want to help small breweries. Like they're amazing people, and they still will help small breweries. But like there's a lot of people
they just put
that
some
like
weight into the fact that these.
Yeah, I mean the beer scene like is awesome. Like people are like just want to help everybody out,
It's
and
very
like
supportive.
the biggest challenge in the beer scene is the fact that everything rotates because they want to help everybody out, But like the positive of that is when you're starting
You're gonna
out,
be helpful
like
to me.
yeah, you're gonna find that out. It's gonna be great. So
I'm still in the baby stage.
there's a lot of people in like higher end craft beer that do want to bring in something special, and they want to get that unique beer that not everybody has. But like. So there's a lot of other places that are like, we never want to run out of your beer because we printed a menu, and like you have to be able to supply it. So when we got to Ambler, like we could start having those conversations. We couldn't have those conversations in Lansdale because we wouldn't be able to support. Like when we opened Ambler, we had to brew all the beer in Lansdale to support Ambler to start with because it took so long for licensing to get approved.
Did your tap list instantly grow because then you had more tank space to then spread out? It wasn't like you were forced to like keep brewing Hopmonger over and over and over again?
Actually it kind of shrank a little bit, to be honest with you, because we were trying to brew more volume across both locations and keep it consistent. For a long time we were trying to brew, like we the first year I think we brewed over 90 beers.
Wow.
And it was extremely stressful because you would be like, we need another name, like what are we going to do over here, like, and then we need a label, and like and you realize after a certain point that like that's not sustainable, like and you don't know where you're selling it outside of the 2 tap rooms. So now we have like a freeform series. So the freeform series is like how we can make all the taproom beers without having to put it out in distro. We don't need to have a can label for it. And then we have a beer with friends series, and the beer with friends series allows us to like collab with another brewery and then not have to put a ton of work into making a crazy label. So you guys had Dan from Forest and Maine in here the other day. His labels are amazing. Like they're just such amazing.
Well, there's
like,
not
people.
many people that are that creative.
No, it's so much work to sit down and do that.
He's a true artist. It's like it's not just like he's coming up with a funny beer name. Like he's putting together these things that go together and
exactly
look great. They taste like everything works and fits.
And there's nothing worse than coming up with beers names is everybody thinks it's cheeky. And in the beginning, people would be like, I have a great beer name for you. And you're like, that's like a really bad cover band name. Like, it's like you start to realize that like it doesn't necessarily always fit. So, and we always worry about our current names like with that. Like, Tiger Tail is a great cream ale, but like the relationship that we have to Tiger Tail here in Philly is different than we had when we started it. So if some of these beers may eventually get different names just because it fits the market that you're in and not necessarily the fact that like you had a really cool thing you thought about on a Saturday night playing poker, so
Sure.
But yeah, it's always part of the game, so.
Yeah, it's like not everybody gets your inside jokes.
Yep, exactly. And it's actually when you look at the packaging journey too, like there was a couple of years ago where we had to like stop and like we did a case exchange for Christmas. And everybody had to go buy different beer so that we could all look at the labels. Because our labels were so inconsistent, you couldn't find our brand on the shelf, even though if they were side by side.
Why? Because like the name of the beer was in different spots. Like it just
Yeah,
changed
well, we
completely?
actually had the logo down below. So like if
Okay.
you looked at a case sitting on a shelf, you couldn't even see what the beer was.
Yeah.
And then we had different artwork for everyone, which took longer to do. So like we put a lot of time into just like figuring out how to make it consistent but different so that we could have things that looked like this versus this.
Yep.
Yeah, make it
But,
on
like,
brand.
Standardized with being able to change and like
Yeah.
have a different vibe for each one.
The more you figure out how to create a platform from that perspective, the faster and cooler beers you can make. And then when you can figure out how to make cooler beers, like you have more fun with it. Like that's what we do. So, but
You definitely put a lot of variety out too. Like more variety than I probably have ever seen in distribution besides somebody like Yards or I don't know, just big places like.
well, it's by nature like we've always just tried to brew like beers true to style.
Yeah.
And we love brewing IPAs, but like we love brewing like Schwartz beers. We love brewing Pilsners. Like we brew Gone Squatchin', which is a smoked, amber beer. Like
How's that so?
it sells at the speed you would assume it sells.
There's some beers that you put on there and you're like, I'm gonna brew this, and I know it's saison. Unless you're forced from Maine, if you're brewing a saison, you better be prepared for that thing to be on draft for the next 9 months.
and that's like the smoked beers like we'll do well in the tap room. Like we've had guys come in and buy 9 crowlers of it in one shot.
But I
like,
think that's what it's for, and you need beers like that.
Yes.
You can't just brew
It's gotta
beers
be
that
different.
sell, over and over and over again. You need some balance, like to kind of show your range.
And that's like when you think through like what was awesome when we went to Ambler is we didn't have to teach people about saisons. When we went to Lansdale, we had to teach people about Kolsch's. So like
So interesting.
Round Guys was there, they were crushing it in Lansdale, but like, they didn't like we had a slightly different styles of beer, and like people would come in and they'd be like, "What's your Miller Lite?" Like, and we're like, "We don't have one of those because we can't lager yet because we need to get 12 to 16 beers on draft, and like for us to lager for the next couple of months with 5 tanks when we started is never going to happen." So we brewed a Kolsch, and like we just had to like coach people on it. Now, people come in to both locations trying to hunt down a Kolsch, and we're like trying to make sure we have it on draft because we put a lot of it in the variety pack. So, but yeah, variety is fun. Like that's like we have seen more and more people drinking lower ABV styles, and it's cool because they get them now. Like they're like, oh, I know the difference between a Kolsch versus a Pilsner versus a cream ale, and like I just got to get people back. Like people think cream ales have lactate in it, and I'm like, no, they don't. Like so.
I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I don't dress very well, but
You
if
look fantastic, man.
like someone like
You want to split any of this, or
Yeah.
like
or you
Ralph.
can just drink that if you want?
Oh, I'm making this one.
Okay, so like a fashion house, say you pick anybody, Ralph Lauren, anybody, Uniqlo, H&M, somebody, just any company that makes and sells their own clothes.
Yep.
They can dress better than you. Why do you, like me, I don't know how to dress myself, but I'm buying all these things from random places. Why wouldn't I just choose one store and just buy all my clothes from one specific store? And at the very least, it just semi-matches. But it's all kind of a variety, so you can get a whole range of clothes. But if you just drink one brewery's beer, you can get a whole range of the beer styles.
Right.
and if the brewery's good at brewing, you're drinking good beer. But you don't have to think about it. You can just like latch onto one.
And then you create an experience.
Exactly.
Right? And like once you get to that experience, and that's like a couple of years ago, people, I mean, I don't know if they still do it, but they were like against flights. And they were like, we're not doing
I'm
flights.
Against flights.
Are you? Oh, come on, man.
This is the sticking point of the podcast. There's going to be a whole
don't
thing
worry,
about it.
Evan loves flights. So.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. It shows my age, and I'm happy about that.
I'm a fan, right? Like, I'm a fan of the fact that, like, the experience that you go to at a brewery is about understanding like what you like and don't like, and you're trying to teach people like what to like and not like because they may not have tried it. It's like my kid trying to get him to eat chicken some days, like he's like, I know I like it in a nugget form, but I don't know if I like it in a chicken parm because there's cheese on it, but I like mac and cheese, So when you start to get into those flights, you can start kind of educating, and you can do that via samples too, but like people go to breweries because they're trying to get a different set of varieties, and then they stay because the experience evolves around them, right? Like they like the bartenders, they like the TVs that they're watching, they like the fact that it's got outdoor space, they like the food if they've got that, and like that's kind of what good and bad breweries are now, right? It's all experience. Like we can no longer like rely on people to come because they're trying to find new beer. Like they're coming because the beer has to be good. Yeah. They're never coming back otherwise. But, like, we have to have a better experience beyond the beer in order for them to keep coming back, too. And when we work with our distributors, we have to give them variety and, like, options so that, like, they can, attach to the brand in a way that they feel comfortable that we don't just make one thing good. We actually make good beer, so.
For sure. I mean, I don't know if I've told this story before or not on our podcast, but that's actually, like, how I got involved in the beer spaces. Like, I just enjoyed going to the different breweries to try the flights because, well, first off, I was really looking forward to just see the different atmospheres each brewery has. That's so much fun. You see, and then you get the different flights and you try the different beers, and that's what hooked me into getting into all the different spaces.
Right.
So it's a me very personal, like, me story, but yet again, I do think that's very translatable to what people, like, younger are looking for right now in beer.
Well, younger people are looking for experiences in general, and that's kind of like the new, like this is our new challenge. Like we're taking Lansdale from what was, like a place that you'd come get all kinds of cool beer to like a music venue and a comedy venue and like really.
Bars, you're not just a bar now; you're a hospitality venue that.
Yes, Ambler is a bar. Like but Ambler's got outdoor space and it's got all of the makings of a good brewery, right?
Yeah.
Like whereas Lansdale lacks that outdoor space, but it has this amazing, cool art vibe to it. So like we had a Tom Petty tribute band in, we had Rich Voss in, we had Jim Florentine in, and like the atmosphere then creates a new experience. And now like the beer is just part of the thing you're doing, which is kind of crazy because like we got into it for the beer. Now all of a sudden we're like running a comedy and music venue, but then we're also putting a lot of money into selling the beer outside the place. So, but like that's what like there's so much out there that like people want experiences. They're trying to figure out what to do.
Well, I think it's good. It's like this competition and like driving like you need to do more. So like, if you were to go to a bar 10 years ago in the U.S., I'm sure the bars now it's like a much better experience. Like the beer is much better, especially breweries. The beer is much better, and then you're also getting this cool music experience on top of that. Like, 15, 20 years ago in craft beer, they would have died for something like that. And now it's like you have to be doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and now we're not like quadruple dry hopping something in order to like get you to come to our bar versus the guy that did it 3 times.
Let's make this
like,
beer so bitter you won't like it, and then that'll get people
it's
to
just
come
pouring out green. Like I just remember like 2 years ago when people were like, I had this hazy and I poured it down the drain and it's just all green in the bottom. I was like, yeah, that's because like we might have overdone it on the hops. Like we might have stepped a little too far into the mosaic land.
When Dogfish Head was at its most popular, they put out a beer that was the highest, supposed to be the highest ABV beer or highest IBU beer ever. It like wasn't even drinkable. It's like you're drinking like
which one was that?
Water. It was something about like ripping the enamel off your teeth. I forget what it was called, but.
They always push the limits. I love what those guys do. Like I will always.
It was very on
that.
brand for them, so it was fun. But I forget what it's called.
I have no idea.
We don't spend enough time reflecting on the OGs, man. Like Sierra Nevada and like what they did at Dogfish had, and like it's just there's a lot of great stuff out there that we like. Stone did some crazy stuff too, but we just didn't have access to it. There's a great podcast from the guys at Lost Abbey that talks about like the explosion and kind of the contraction and kind of how you work through it. And it was on this how not to start a damn brewery. Okay. I don't know if I could say another podcast on a podcast.
Please, say
but
we'll tag them.
But like it was just fascinating to listen to the importance of like why they made beer and like what the OGs did to make beer versus like sending 4 cases of beer across the country for somebody to drink in Boston when you're coming from California area. So
GoTab is the all-in-one POS that breweries love. From taprooms to brewpubs, GoTab makes managing orders, events, payments, and operations a breeze. With features like membership and loyalty programs, shared tabs, mobile ordering, and more, you can serve your guests faster and keep them coming back. Plus, GoTab works seamlessly with the tools you already use, so no need for costly hardware upgrades. If you're ready to take your brewery to the next level, check out GoTab, the POS that's built for breweries. At Wazak Inc., they keep your water clean, safe, and flowing at its best. From local breweries to busy distilleries, they're proud to serve over 20 spots across New Jersey, New York, and PA, with top-tier water treatment that's affordable and built to last. Wazak know that every brewery has unique needs, so they tailor boiler treatment plans that keep equipment running smoothly and efficiently. And for them, it's not just about water. It's about delivering safety, satisfaction, and reliability to every client. So ready to elevate your water quality? Connect with Wazak Inc. today and let them get your system to its peak performance.
So what's the beers now versus what you were home brewing? Like, what were you was your home brew any good?
Oh, dude, we won awards with it, man.
And like, were any of these beers like the child of some of your home brews? Like, are any of your homebrew recipes beers that you're still brewing right now?
I don't think so. I would have to ask Rick if there was any specific one. Like, so we used to brew a knockoff black IPA, right? Like, and it was, I don't know the name of it. We didn't really. It was back in the days. I don't remember any of the names. And our black IPA right now is awesome. Like it's one of the most underrated styles and one of the most underrated beers. Like I would love to put that in distro, but it's another one where it's like it's hard. It'll move in select stores and it'll move in select bars, but you can't get it in mass. But we used to brew that. We used to brew barley wine that was really good. We didn't really brew cream ales back then. We brewed pilsners and lagers. Blonde Americano came out after we started the brewery. Like that was an adventure that we started after going to another country and learning about stuff. Hopmonger came out afterwards. Like our first IPA that we did at the brewery in Lansdale was called Tire Kicker, and I was actually I saw a review the other day for it for some reason. I think AI picks up everything from like forever ago and like it shows up, but Tire Kicker was just named because we were afraid of how the fire would how the burner was going to work, and like it caramelized some of the beer in the bottom, and like it created this very unique taste, and we're like, we're never going to make that again, so we can never do it. But all of our IPAs came after that. When we started making hazy IPAs, we spent like a year before we'd even call anything a hazy IPA because like the art of getting things in suspension and like being able to hold this, like you've got it over there too. Like,
yeah,
like there's too many.
I mean, now everyone knows how to brew hazy IPAs. As little as 6-7 years ago, it was like people literally couldn't brew hazy IPAs.
Yeah, I don't know if they all know how to brew hazy IPAs still.
A lot of people do, but like they were just like, there was this fear of like if you put too much oats or wheat in it, like you're gonna wreck something, and like people were messing up and like basically like dipping their toe in like you don't want to call it a hazy IPA because if you call it that, now it's just like even if something's not hazy, you just call it a hazy IPA.
Yeah, exactly. There's some that are not hazy getting called a hazy IPA, and you're like, dude, that's not hazy. But like, I appreciate what they're trying to do because they're just trying to get the flavor profiles out of it. And then there's also some that are hazy, but like they're just too much. Like my palate's changed so much. Like I prefer West Coast when I can get them. I didn't bring any West Coast. I should have brought some with us. But like Colonel Forbin on West Coast is like one of my favorite. And like we do that on Nitro or a double West Coast like we do in our Freeform series. But like those styles, like homebrewing them back like 13 years ago was not even thought of. Like it was just a different thing. So So everything that we've brewed has just been basically us learning, watching, like going through it all. So like when we look at a style like a lager, we go back and grab a bunch of lagers and we're like, how do we want to make it? What do we want to do? I will say our brewers are like awesome. Like they get things right. Like a lot of the times from the first batch. When we did Citromonger, I was like, well, do you want to run a test batch? And they're like, nah, we got this. And it was like, it's amazing. It's like one of our best beers. And everybody that comes in is like, I really like Citromonger. Like, but when we get into like the Cran Orange, like I was telling you, like we spend a lot of time in R&D just like saying, okay, like what cranberry should we use? How much cranberry should we use? Like we don't ever want to overdo it because a lot of times people will punch you in the face with the flavor and then you're like, I'm only going to have one. Like Blonde Americano, like I can only drink one or two of them, but like other people are like, this is my favorite because it's different and doesn't taste like it tastes like a beer, but it's like a sweeter kind of style to it. But so yeah, everything we I don't know. I don't know how we create them half the time. Like it's one of those things where like we get to the end of the year and we're like,
is it you
what
and
do we
Rick,
achieve?
or is it combined effort?
It's
or
the
is there-
team.
okay.
So like Rick does a lot of the like recipe formulations and like coming up with some of the ideas for it. But like when we sit down and say like what are we gonna make for our freeform series, we're like, well, I just had a red ale and like I haven't had a red ale in a while, and why don't we put it on nitro? And like then it becomes a challenge to keep the brewers like entertained. Like Paige Turner for our anniversary, we did a barley wine, and like we love doing those styles of beer because then we get a bunch of the beer to go put into barrels, and then barrels get released. We do a lot more barrel-aged beer releases than people think.
I wanted to ask you about that because barrel-aged beers are something that in the last couple of years nobody's doing. I'm starting to hear a little bit more about it, and I think it's going to be one of those things where like 3 years from now, everyone's going to be like, I want high ABV barrel-aged beer.
Well, we're going to crack this Wolf Pajama blend, but like my favorite time of the year is going through barrels, and like nobody gets that experience like you do in a brewery where you're like hammering the nail into all the different barrels, and we're like, okay, this is Heaven's Hill barrel here, and this is Sazerac rye barrel, and like we've done a number. Like this one's a blend, so this has a couple different ones. It actually has some of the beer from last year. Like it's just such an art, right? And like we spend weeks trying to determine how do we get the wood flavor in with the bourbon flavor and with like the beer flavor that we're trying to get out of it in order to get it right.
It's one of the things in craft beer where you're like, you get into this because you want to be like a craftsman and be creative.
Right.
But a lot of your job is just like managing the business and cleaning tanks. But then you do this and you're like, no, this actually feels like I'm like a artisanal craftsman.
My staff will tell you at the end of the night, like I'm always like I'm a big like don't get drunk kind of guy, even though I own a brewery. Like I'm like very conscious of the fact that I've got 40 different people working for me, and I don't want to get it. But like I'll be like, I want a 5-ounce pour of this barrel aged stout, and like that's all I'll have. Like, and they're like, okay, like, but like the barrel aged stuff that we've been doing in the last 2 years has just been awesome. It's been on point, like 12.5%, 13.5%, out of the right barrels, blended the right way.
Can you talk about where you get your barrels from?
Northeast Barrel Supply. Like we get a lot of them from there. Well, actually, we got like 5 or 6 barrels from Boardroom. So like we had a northbound rye barrels that we got, and it's hilarious. Like they're good friends of ours, so you guys are familiar with them. Boardroom Spirits.
I've heard of them.
So Boardroom Spirits is up in Lansdale. They actually work with Robert Irvine, like the restaurant.
chef?
Yeah. So they make all kinds of different cocktails and beers and like not beers, like distilled products. Like, but they had this like rye bourbon, and like one of the barrels had like this much as the Angels share, and we're like, we gotta like get this out. But like, so we had a full stock of them, and we had like, and this is where our freeform series comes in, right? Like, so we had a beer we called big effing stout, right? Like, and it was a little bit thinner than we wanted it to be, so that went into freeform, and then we brewed another one that was like thick as hell, and then that went back into the barrels, and it gave us 2 really good runs of stouts that we had for the year. So those if we didn't get something from Northeast, we like use those. But we've got rum barrels, we've got wine barrels. Like we have a like we're in a basement. We got to take advantage of the basement storage space.
Yeah. It's a cellar.
But yeah, so we blended one up. Yeah, so like I can never get enough of I think you need a little more than that.
It is a Monday.
We'll get you. It's a Monday.
We started.
It is a Monday.
Well, it's in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, so.
So who do you guys like from the bourbon? Like what do you guys go to on the bourbon barrel standpoint?
I mean, honestly,
A little more if we need in there.
I'm not a bourbon guy
Cheers.
that much.
Yeah, I don't drink any bourbon.
I mean, so you don't drink the bourbon barrel stouts either?
Not.
I was
No, I wouldn't
really
gravitate towards-
into everything that Evil Twin was making.
Okay.
But in the last couple of years, like I haven't drank a lot of high octane stouts.
Wow.
This is
It
really
reminds you of the complications. Like it's just like it's so like there's so many flavors that you get out of it. And
one of it is not alcohol, like.
This one's 11.5%.
But it
But
doesn't taste like that
And-
at all. It's so smooth. It's so nice.
so yeah, we've released I think 5. Well, we like Wolf Pajamas. We do. Everybody has a Black Friday like stout releases. We do it the week before Black Friday, and we throw Wolf. We have a pajama party. So so we have a Wolf Pajama party, and we had 4 different ones that we released. We had a double chocolate vanilla one that we put out this year, but we also put a Sazerac single barrel with the blend out. There's one more that's escaping me, but like we've done all the different things, and like the Amberilla, like we've done the orange. Like right now we're just trying to put out really freaking good beers. Like I'm like kind of. I like the fact that people put out like a ton of variants, but at the same point, like I just want to get like the right beer in the right hands and like let somebody drink it like on a night we hang out at a fire, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
and that's like what we've been doing. So we don't end up getting tracked on. There's no line for the for the week before Black Friday, but people that know that Wolf Pajamas is a great beer, they come in and they grab it. So
That is awesome.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
but. And then it's fun. Like we have some bars that are trying to get it on draft and stuff like that because
Really?
they're trying to find bourbon barrel stuff.
Do
Like
you do it on Nitro?
Oh, wow.
we don't have the bourbon on Nitro, but we do. We just actually have a couple on the Wolf side of Nitro.
How does Nitro go for you guys? Is that
We love it. So Blonde we put on Nitro. We put our West Coast on Nitro.
and you have to put it in a specialty tank with Nitro stuff, or you
No.
just kind of Nitro?
We
shoot
Nitro we put it in Nitro before we carb it fully up,
Okay.
and then we have a whole method for how we blend it and get
Cool.
it out, and then but we do milk stouts. We did our red ale and Nitro. Like we have 2 Nitro lines at both locations, so we try to take advantage of it whenever we can.
Nice.
And anytime the brewers are like, "Oh, should we put this on Nitro?" We're like, "Yeah." So we have a Mexican chocolate stout called Cacao Caliente that's going to be making its way to Nitro in our tap rooms as well. So
I saw that. I was with Danny today. I heard his whole sales pitch for you guys. I was just
see, I told you, man.
I was hoping you would bring that, but
Oh, I should have brought that actually.
this is awesome though.
Yeah.
So how do you go about picking like the different bourbon barrels? Like,
Well, it's kind of you kind of have
do you have to have a really good night?
you have to have a choice, like because you have to brew the beer in tangent of making sure the barrel is ready to accept the beer, right? Like you want to make sure the barrel like is at its prime.
Do you have like steps that you take to clean the barrels, or you're just like there's alcohol in it and you're filling it up off the tanks and just?
Now you're getting into their land, so I know that there are steps that there to prepare the barrel. Like I don't know exactly what those steps are, so come up and see it. Come hang out. Whenever we get to that point next. Now we're gonna have to start brewing the stouts again to get into next year. So it depends on whether you're going for 6 months to a year to 2 years. Like as I said, some of this is like 2 years into it. So
No, that's fun. So how did you? I mean, you guys are at this time point where you guys are what 7 years old, 8 years old,
6.5.
6.5 years old.
Round up, yeah.
So you guys probably start off with like what you thought your tap list was going to be.
Yep.
And you said you guys brewed like 80, 90 beers the first year. So I'm sure the tap list has changed. Your thoughts on like the spread of different beers, whether it's lagers, IPAs, stouts, whatever it is.
It's
Like,
yeah.
How did that shift? And then, like where are you guys at now versus, where you guys were?
We had a lot more Belgians on and Saisons on back in the day.
Do you guys
like
have any Belgians on now? And is that because you guys were homebrewing them because they were?
no, we just really love those styles.
Because
And it
Belgians
was
are like the high temperature ferment. So I feel like a lot of homebrew Belgian beers are like actually not bad.
yeah.
But
No, we brewed some really good Belgian beers when we first started out. We just don't see the ask as much as we used to. We brewed like 3 to 4 different Saisons, and there was a while where like we would just crush and move Saisons, but then that kind of changed too. Like Forest and Maine somehow can sell Saisons all year, any time of the year, and it's amazing. But we have one that's a dry hopped I think it's like 4.5. It's a sessionable saison called Oso, and that's like our, as much as we have around the year. So, but we don't brew as many saisons as we used to. Now we're starting to see more, pilsners, kolsches, like lagers. Like, I mean, our tap list is very balanced right now. Like, we've got a number of different stouts, we've got a number of different sours, we've got a number of different low ABVs, and we probably only have like 4 or 5 IPAs right now, which is abnormal, right? Like, we have like 1 or 2 like 5.5% ones, and then we have like 2 or 3 like that are in that hazy category, and then we have a West Coast on. Whereas like for a while, there was a point in time where somebody came in and gave us a review because we only had 5 or 6 hazy IPAs, and we used to just have to keep running them out, and so that change is kind of like okay, like I'm okay accepting that, but. Brown ales, red ales. I don't know if we have a brown ale on tap now, but we have one that we've got that we used to have. We just got rid of a red ale, but trying to bring back some of those styles that we didn't have before. So, but yeah, a lot of it's changed since we first opened. So,
have you put any new styles on, or you've been experimenting with new styles? I know in general, just
what's an experimental style?
Oh, I'm not. I don't just bringing back some older styles that.
Like a couple of years ago, there was the cold IPA that came on.
Yeah, we did one of those.
The brewed IPA, there's always some trend.
We did one of those too. The brewed IPA thing that was a style. I don't know that needed to be around for a long time.
I mean, we're in this era now where it's just you can't say you're doing something new. You have to be brewing old school styles.
Right.
But for the first 25 years of brewing, it was just who's gonna make the new hazy IPA style? Who's gonna make the new style?
We just had a free form American Pale Ale, and you think that would be revolutionary at this point in time because nobody makes American Pale Ales, and it went well, it went great, I loved it. But it's those styles that are nostalgic that people are kind of anchoring back to, versus the coming up with the brewed IPA. The cold IPAs were good, we made those before too, but I don't know that people are dying to get them right now, and I think that's kind of one of the challenges is when you look at what a bar's tap list looks like and what our tap list looks like, it's very similar now. We try to have the right stouts on, we try to have the blondes on. I wish I could tell you that there was something crazy going on in the industry, but it's kind of leveling into a point where it'll happen again, but I think people are kind of comfortable right now. And for brewers that's okay. It's okay. I'm comfortable with the fact that I can make a red ale, and it's not you don't need me to blow you out of the water.
What I'm happy though is I feel we finally stopped chasing the trends in craft beer. Not everybody feels that they need to make a seltzer now. Not everyone feels they need to make all these other things. So hopefully everyone got it out of their system. We can just focus on making good beer now.
That's true, but that actually is one of the things we are testing out.
A seltzer?
We're testing it just because the manner of the people drinking, it's back to what we were talking about with the younger generation. I don't know that it won't be a seltzer that's going out to the public. But it's one of those things where it's kind of got we sell statesides and boardrooms and all these other things. It's is there a place for us to kind of match into that?
I think if you look at it,
but they're hard though.
Why are stateside so popular? It's basically a seltzer that's uncarbonated.
Right.
So how do you make a seltzer even more drinkable? You take away the carbonation, and then it doesn't upset your stomach from the carbonation.
Right.
So it's if you look at it from the customer's perspective, they're looking for these specific things. Forget traditional beer history. Let me try to make a drink that Gen Z or the new craft beer drinkers would like, and let me construct that and see, and then jump back to my perspective from the craft beer and what kind of beer is that, or is there some beer seltzer hybrid, some FMB that's hasn't been invented yet.
Then you get into it.
It's not a tea, but it's something that people didn't think that you could make this into marketable alcohol product.
And that's it's again, you have to look at the different demographics you serve, and you're trying to figure it out. And when you get into the experience side, when we're a beer company, people are we're either going or not going for beer, but we've got street cred on the craft or on the cocktail side, and we serve really good wines from the area, and again, you're balancing. It's like playing the stock market. You got the distro side over here, and you're like, I only want to get these beers in distro because I want to be that beer to our customers out there in the rest of the world. But then in-house, you're like, well, how am I going to adjust my draft list? Because there are kids that we're missing out on, or we're doing a lot more music now, and like it may make sense for us to have an alternative, especially like the gluten-free land, where it's like you're trying to keep yourself out of fighting on the gluten-free land. Like seltzers are a little bit easier to get in.
Liquid Death so hot right now. Make artisanal water.
Dude,
Just
our
crank up the
Ambler
price.
Ambler water is one of the best waters
Your
around.
well-crafted water company.
So are you guys in the hop tea camp too? Like, have you guys had any of those?
I've had one, and I am in the camp of 100% anti-NA beer.
Okay.
But with that being said, NA beer, it doesn't make sense to me. It's as expensive as beer. You're still drinking
Because the process is the same.
It's besides the fact that there's not alcohol in it, it's as unhealthy. You're drinking like carbonated water with all these calories in it. Hop water, you're getting the flavor of hops. And it's
I
just
love
water.
hop water. I like hop water. Is
That's
just like
hop
it's
water
great.
to me makes
so.
sense.
And hop teas, like using
makes sense to me.
It's fascinating to me when you get into the hop tea standpoint that like when you think about how you make beer, right? Like and you think about your malts and all the different things like you get into it with and how the hops are there. Then you go into the tea side and you're like, well, I've got black tea and green tea and you start to look at how those flavors change, and then you bring hops on top of that, and you can get some really cool stuff.
I don't think I've tried it. Is that available right now?
Yeah, there's a brand called Hoplark that has hop teas and hop waters, and then there's Hop 2.0, and then there's like Brothers Kirshner's put out hop teas as well. So
I'm against NA beers. I think hopped water things, and hop tea things. I think do have a.
I always like I was with you on the against NA beer side, and we're not making one, so I'm not like, putting anything out there, but like. Every now and then somebody will give me one to try to prove me wrong, and I'm like, oh, like this is actually okay. But I feel like I've got to get
It's okay,
tricked.
but also it's as expensive as beer.
Yes.
And what, you're gonna drink 3 of those and just be full? Like you can't like alcohol. Like, you're not selling this thing to get people fucked up. Like, you're not selling the you like people that sell cigarettes aren't like you'll get a crazy head rush. You just like sell the idea of it, but like you're selling the beer.
Yeah, I think it's
like,
it's there's a lot of different trends that you're trying to just understand. Like that's like I don't personally totally understand them all, but like I'm trying to like accept the fact that reality's changing.
Yeah.
Right? And like that's the biggest like that is the in this year of 2024 for the brewing world, it's like you have to just sit down and go, what just happened? Like there was no RTDs in the stores. Now there's RTDs in the stores. Like kids can, like we were talking about earlier, like kids can buy gummies. Like that wasn't a real thing. Like 3-4 years ago, I wasn't competing with, like
with weed.
Like, and now I'm like, okay, like, and somebody calls it the percentage of the buzz, right? I think it might have been the guys from Victory, like they're like the Godfathers. They're awesome. Like, but like it's this world of like you're going out. Like nobody changed going out. Like you're going out. You're getting together with your buddies. You're hanging out on the couch. You're going out for whatever. And where you're spending money and how you're spending money, like that's hard. Like and
people
like
didn't stop altering their mind.
No, they did
like,
not.
They just changed the way they're altering their mind, and it's just like a lot of people in craft beer are stuck into like they are stuck in this death circle of like we need to make the new like IPA, and it's just like you guys aren't like looking at the full picture of like this is like we need to make NA beers because like what the next turn, like, we're still chasing this like craft beer thing, and it's just like that circle is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking because you're just looking at that same circle. Like look at the customer.
I think even like the world of what craft beer means, like it's craft beer still, but like that's why I like having all these different styles. It's like the reality is like I can sell a cream ale or a cream ale with ginger lime, and like people love it, and like and if you can fit them into the style, you're back to the point of having to like get people engaged, which is why the flight thing comes to be important, right? Like now you're like, hey, like all you do is gummies, and like now I want to teach you about beer, like But like, it's just we can't change the way the consumer works because that's what they are. Like that's what they've done. Like we weren't there at like 45, 50 years old trying to teach the 20-year-old who has a completely new set of rules, like what to do. And like you always go back to the fact of like what would we be doing if like 20 years ago weed was legal for us? Like, and I'm not like a big consumer of it, but I try to explain it to my mom a couple weeks ago. I'm like, we never know, like, because like when my daughter graduates from high school, like or college or whenever, I don't even know when you could like what age you have to be to buy weed.
I think it's 21 for everyone.
21. All right,
Yeah.
so that's how like ignorant I am to it, right? So, but like that's just gonna be part of their world, right? And they're not gonna be like trying to figure out whether it's IPAs or stouts. They're gonna be figuring out whether it's Nerd Ropes or Twizzlers, but like they don't even know what Twizzlers are half the time because that candy disappeared, right? Like, so like we just have to, as a brewing industry and as a craft beer scene, kind of keep moving with the consumer. And if the consumer changes habits and they're looking for like seltzers here, but like don't make it like your thing, but like they're looking for barrel aged stouts here, like you've got to figure out if you're attaching to the guy that loves the barrel aged stouts or if you're kind of following the trends. We're just trying to like be there for everyone, like, and that's like the biggest thing. Like I would never stop making barrel aged stouts just because the market shrank.
Yeah.
Like I would try to find the people that like them and like get them there. So, and that's what happens. People come in, they have one or two of them, and then they're like, we're coming back for 6 bottles, and then like they're like, where do we get it? And I'm like, we only made a limited release. So next time you see the word limited, get it. So,
that's such a good perspective to have. Like honestly, from an owner standpoint, like in the industry, just being willing to play around and just see.
Yeah, you have your foot in both circles. Like you understand who you are, but you also understand like that the customers who they are also.
You choose what bars you go to based on their tap lists and the experience that you have on them. Like it's the same thing that you associate with brands. Like at the end of the day, like you're going to pick a brand that fits what you like, just like you're going to pick a bar or like a restaurant, like. And some people are vegan and some people are going to like meat, and like you got to figure it all out. So that's what we do. So now we're getting deep. Like this is a beer drinking thing. He's coming in.
Well, we broke out the barrel aged.
I know. This is like, I mean, we still have a little bit left, but
weird.
I'm gonna save that for these guys. They need to try it. It's delicious.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. We'll get you guys hooked up with it. So, but yeah, I appreciate you guys breaking that out because that like that, and then you tie that into like the blonde Americano. You tie that in with the crayon orange. Then you like the monger side of it, like you get that range, and like now you're having a party.
Yeah.
So, and it's a different type of party. You're having a party where you get different flavors, different tastes. So, but sweet.
Nice, you're thinking about stuff. So cool. So what is next for Well Crafted?
As
More
I said, like
doing what you're doing.
Well, this year is about refinement. Like it's about getting those beers like that we love, like further out in and making them more accessible. And then at the same time being able to continue to experiment on that. And then it's also about experience. As I said, like I'm playing a dual role right now of trying to, well, I guess it's like 3 roles. Like one is changing our kitchen and like adding in new foods, figuring out what it is, and like working with this amazing team and like my leadership team to have a better like food experience. Working our stage, understanding what that is, which isn't even a beer thing, but it's like, it's fun, right? Like, it's like, okay, we're going to get in a Pearl Jam tribute band. We're going to get a Neil Young tribute band in. We're going to get a U2 tribute band. And like, and you start to get into this world where like people are just having fun, drinking beers and enjoying it. And then tying those beers to like the rest of the world. Like
100%.
This year for us is about trying to expand the brand outside of the tap rooms. Like not like in a just go to restaurants world, but like get it places where it needs to be. And I think that's like, because that's the hardest part we have right now. Like margins are going down, like the market's kind of shrinking a little bit. Like, so now we have to go to like, where do we get the most bang for the buck, and partnering with all of our bars and restaurants and all the friends that we can get into so that we can get them highlighted in this stuff too. So I don't know if it'll work, but we're trying. So
This idea of taking, like, you have to create your environment in your bar, but if you take that same mindset to your wholesale business, it's like create the environment that customers want in their bar that they're going to already. But like how do you leverage like increasing that experience in partnership with?
We're partnering with a guy up in the Lehigh Valley to make a really cool like pickle beer. Like it's, but like he like it's not a goza. But it's like kind of like he created this experience already around it. He's kind of a deadhead, like he's got a cool vibe going on with it, and like it's like a fit. And like I think this year is going to be one of those years where just like humble, great relationships like help people stand out. And just like nobody needs to be extravagant. I'm probably gonna be wrong on January 1st. Somebody's gonna do something completely ridiculous, but like I think we just need a year to like embrace and just be like, you know what, it's all good, and then everybody together.
It's like it feels like a reset time right now. Like what you said before, like you asked, like what's the new trend? Like I was thinking, I don't know what the new trend is right now. Like lagers are now like you're the lager. Like
I feel like if anything, I feel like mild is like becoming
mild,
just like mild,
like English mild.
Yeah, like,
mild shouldn't always be on. Like that should be the thing. The problem is that you can't mass like
yeah, that's
like it'll always be classy in the right bar, and I love them. But like it's that thing of like you're not gonna beat out the stateside in the bar on that stuff.
Without a doubt, yep.
But like in the craft world, it should be. And those, you know what's great about milds? And like these are actually like good margin beers. So when you look at your breweries that are trying to survive because things are shrinking a little bit, like those higher margin beers that you are okay with paying $6 for versus the $8 fight for the hazy IPA that has way too many hops that are way too expensive. That's a good thing for the industry. Like if you start drinking milds and you start drinking brown ales, we can make them all day long, and I'll make money, and you'll be happy because you'll be paying less.
This is a problem with lagers. Everyone's trying to make lagers now, but lagers make your margins better because you drop the hops out of them, but you still have a high price. But now that everybody's making lagers, it's going to be a price war for lagers because the customer's going to realize that the lagers that you're selling are going to be too expensive. But with an ale, there's not macro ales. Like you can still have the mild and have it at a craft price, know, without having to compete with like these macro brands that can make a perfectly good lager.
Yeah, which takes a while to make a lager too.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be like it's gonna be an interesting year. I'm excited for this year, but it's gonna be an interesting year. It's gonna be.
I don't know where it's gonna go either. Like now you're saying that, like I'm focused on like what I'm doing, and like maybe I need to take a step back because like, I don't know what the next trend is. Maybe the next trend is that there's not a trend, and it's just we take a year to like.
There will be a trend. I just don't know what I've not seen it, and like it just pops up out of nowhere. But like I think that it's going to be limit. It's not going to be the same like 2-year run on hazy IPAs. So
yeah,
or dry hopped everything like. I don't know. Dry hop lagers are cool. Like there's some really good dry hop stuff that's happening. Like pilsners, dry hop pilsners are cool too. But like, I just think that there's also just going to be like a separation in terms of how that market appeal goes. So
it might be the experience. Like it goes away from style. What you're saying, the experience focus.
I was talking to somebody the other day. Like if the thing that would make me so happy, like if I come back here in a year, like we all say, the only way you ever come back here is if this comes true. It's if beer dinners start happening again. Because I will tell you that in the last year, the most fun I had was at a beer dinner where like I had a amazing chef pair 4 courses with beers. And it was awesome. It was like...
You know what's happening now? Beer dinners without breweries, without beer.
What?
There's high-end restaurants in the city that are just doing catered high-end events that cost like, $100+ a ticket. But a beer
now
dinner
you're ruining it for me.
Is what a beer dinner was without the beer. There's no beer element to it. But if breweries start getting attached to those, you add value to that.
So there's an amazing book called The Barrel Aged Stout and Selling Out, and it's the Goose Island story.
Yeah, great.
Did you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like going back to those experiences, and that's how you introduce craft. Like that's how people got on this craft kick.
Yeah.
Like if I sat you guys down and put a nice porter down, like and got you this Wolf Pajamas, and then we had a nice like potato dish, like you guys would have a different experience than just me being like, here you go, it's a plastic cup,
Yeah.
So I would love to see that. I would love to see that like collaboration between breweries and like bars and restaurants, and like and people that go through it. I'd love to see farmers markets explode. Like,
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of things that like reconnect, and maybe that's the world that we were talking about earlier. How do you get to that next level of youth? So, but
Cool.
is this like is all your podcasts this deep? Oh, we should never have broken out this
Well,
bourbon barrel.
when you start drinking this
sometimes.
much, it starts
Yeah.
to get a little weird. But,
Good. All right. Sweet.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have anything else to say, and where can we find?
No,
Well
guys,
Crafted?
I really appreciate you having us on the show. Like,
No, thank you for coming on.
I would love to tell you a place to go for Well Crafted, but like we've been very thankful for the fact that we've gotten picked up by a number of people around the city and outside in the burbs.
If
So, like,
wherever you find your beer at, you can probably find.
yeah, like so like find the most like coolest local place you can go to, and if they don't have us, call me, and if they
And
do
they're not
have
the
us,
coolest
high five
place.
them and tell them thank you. And no, I appreciate it, and we'll be with you guys whenever you need us. So.
Cool, and we can find you guys at wellcraftedbeer.
.com.
At wellcraftedbeer.com. Instagram at wellcraftedbeer.
Yeah. Now you're like, see, this is where the youth thing is. Our
I got you.
our handles are all at Well Crafted Beer.
At
and
Wellcrafted Beer, and we're at Wellcrafted.
there's
Lansdale.
there's like
Yeah.
one main one and then a couple of sub branches, and
I'll tag them all.
just tag everything. Yeah, tag people that aren't even beer. Like just anything Well Crafted would be good. So
Cool, and then you can find us at Brewdat and at the Brewdat Podcast, and don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
well, you gotta do the thumbs up thing. That's what my kids does. So hit the thumbs up button.
Yeah, we'll get the thumb bubbles that rise up. Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's all we got.
Sweet.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.